first, the holy grail at the moment, as you said, is developing quick and cheap tests for coronavirus. Boris Johnson recently outlined what he described as Operation Moonshot, a solution to the pandemic that would see millions of COVID results delivered within minutes, removing the uncertainty of whether businesses have to close and people have to self-isolate. Well, let's hear from one UK firm that's part of the race to create tests. The Technology Partnership, or TTP, based in Cambridge, is developing 5 possible solutions. The company was part of the UK's Ventilator Challenge and came up with a design for a new ventilator in 5 weeks. Their head of healthcare, Douglas Bradshaw, joins me from Cambridge. Good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
It really does feel like a bit of a race against time, doesn't it? What sort of challenges do you face when you're trying to come up with a testing solution?
Well, maybe we'll come to the point about a race in a second, but tests are incredibly complex technology. Arguably, they're more complicated than a ventilator for a number of reasons. Well, they need to be accurate, so they need to be very sensitive in detecting strains of the virus. They need to be specific to the virus itself, and they need to answer different questions. So, do you have the disease, or have you had the disease? And as has been mentioned already, they need to be fast for certain settings. So thinking about the workplace, thinking about travel, thinking about perhaps applications in entertainment, you need to get from sample to answer in ideally under 5 minutes. And then finally, it's around the challenge itself is the huge numbers. So with the ventilator challenge, it was 30,000 ventilators in total. Now we're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of tests per day, as a result of which the tests must be low cost. And there are sort of additional challenges around logistics and supply chain. So it is an immense challenge, and nothing quite fits the bill, added to which is a crisis. So trying to find a solution, the timelines are very short. We have weeks or months to do this, not the years that we might normally have.
And do you think those weeks and months are possible, that time frame is realistic?
Well, yes, they are. Anything as complicated as this requires a sort of a multi-pronged approach. And so we're trying to scale up the sort of availability of existing tests. But there are 2 other prongs. So one of them is repurposing existing technologies for COVID. One of the companies we're working with is called Quotient. They're a company based in Scotland. And we developed a test with them that was for blood screening and blood typing. But their expertise in reagent development means that they very quickly developed a test for antibodies associated with COVID. And this tells you whether or not you have had the disease. And that has application in immunity checking and population surveys. Of course, one of the bigger questions now is whether you actually had the disease now. And TTP is investing through one of its subsidiaries called Lex in technology which can go from sample to answer in under 5 minutes and addresses some of the other challenges associated with COVID. So the need for accuracy and extremely low cost. The timelines there are, they're probably measured more in months or sometime next year. But the need, I think, is going to stay with us for that kind of period.
And you mentioned blood screening as one of the ways that you're looking for antibodies. How else do these tests work that you're developing?
Well, there are a large number of approaches to detecting either the virus itself or the antibodies that the host produces in the immune response. When I last looked, there are at least 11 ways of detecting the virus or the antibodies. They're all relatively young technologies, so by comparison to the kind of technology that one would find in a ventilator, the technologies are relatively young, and it's perhaps for that reason that there isn't anything that quite fits the bill. So the response from the UK scientists and engineers I think is a sensible one. We're doing what we can with existing technologies to try and ramp up the testing capacity of the UK, but also looking at, I say, more sort of clean sheet of paper solutions, which will enable testing in the millions that may well be required until a vaccine is found.
Thank you very much, Douglas Bradshaw from TTP.